we've not been making the strides as much as we would want to have made so far in table tennis at the moment. So let's focus on the juniors for the future. Is that it, or those are the projects that are available for such players?
Yeah, true. I think as Kenya Table Tennis Association, we would want to see a real smooth running from the juniors to the senior players. And if we, the senior players, could not manage to take our country to a certain level, we believe this is high time for the juniors to be equipped with the accurate and correct information as well as techniques to ensure that at least we prosper more, a notch higher from where we are now. So these are the parameters that we're putting in place to ensure.
Okay, now Kennedy, you've been playing table tennis for, well, let's say quite a while. We've actually met in some tournaments and whatnot. What would you say is the reason behind, as you mentioned, us not, hitting the targets that we had set for ourselves before?
I think the structures that have been put in place one of the issues, because like the most players that we've been competing them against them internationally, most of them play professional leagues. It's only that Kenyan players do not play professional league outside the Kenya. And we would also want a technical aspect whereby the government or the association partners up with other stakeholders to ensure that we get foreign coaches, like if they can come in Kenya, come for 2 months or 3 months, to ensure that they equip the young people with accurate knowledge so that we can move our sport to the next level. Okay.
Now, in terms of, in regards to developing the sport and encouraging kids, because it's a popular game in high schools.
Yes.
But then just like most other sports, once someone is done with high school, just a few people actually continue playing it through university, colleges, and less professionals. Maybe what's the reason behind that?
I think personal initiative as a player makes a huge difference, because some of us played in high schools. We also, like for me, I played all the 4 national games since Form 1 up to Form 4. And after that, I did not quit. I still developed that passion to carry on. So it's up to the young players to have their own initiative to carry on and never lose hope, because you cannot win all the time. And the competition, like say in high school level, is totally different to the way the competition are being played, like in the national league. So if you see that you are beating people at the high school level, you need also to challenge yourself and challenge these other top players.
At the national level?
Yes, please.
Yeah, now, off camera, you did mention that you grew up in Kitale.
Yes.
So I'll just refer to a story actually from St. Joseph's School in Kitale, whereby Austin, one of the teachers, an English teacher, really, has developed, let's say, this initiative whereby instead of people saying that, well, it's expensive to buy a table tennis table or even the bats, which you shall be talking about at the cost of the equipment, whether really discourages some people from playing the sport or not. But he has started that initiative whereby, well, makeshift tables, really.
Yes, true. I remember I was born and brought up in Kitale. My very first coach was called Mr. Justice Gishuki. He's a teacher at St. Monica's Girls School, Kitale. And he's the one who actually brought me up on the speed of table tennis, because I was brought up in a ghetto whereby we could not indulge in other activities rather than thinking of crime and something like that.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But through him, I thank God that he saw a passion in me and he saw that this boy has a potential. So for me giving back, in 2014, we started off with Austin Musumba at St. Joseph's Boys, Kitale. And in that 2014, we reached the national levels, Kakamega High School, and we beat Menengai High School in final, 3-0. From scratch, using dining hall tables and not very so much expensive equipment. But through that, the North Rift branch had to advocate for support from Kenya Table Tennis Association. Then it started building up. That's how the game has really developed in Kitale. And we are looking forward, like in the next few years, most top players will come from Kitale. And regardless to that, the entire national team for women, except only one, has always come from Kitale, St. Monica's Girls High School. So I think they also want to emulate the same to the boys and to the men's team.
Okay, and when it comes to such initiatives, of course, identifying talent in table tennis, and, well, is it just about, well, you see a player playing, a young player playing, and, or you're excited to take them to different tournaments, or the initiatives that you guys have undertaken, especially, let's say, for example, Austin Musumba and yourself, since you train these kids, is it on a long-term basis such that you actually assist them throughout the process, let's say, you know, changing levels, going from primary school to high school? Is it a matter of you also assist them through the transition? Are you managers, or you just talent, you know, talent scouts,
No,
for lack of a better term?
I think we are all round, because when the students come to school, the first purpose is to school, to get accurate education and to go to get better opportunities in life. And that is the first thing that Musumba and Mr. Gishuki are looking at when people go to school. Then the second thing is sports. And in sport, we look at 4 pillars: the technical aspect, the tactical aspect, the physical aspect, and the psychological aspect. If a player has the 4 pillars, I think he or she is capable of transforming to a much better player in future.
Okay, you did mention that when it comes to identifying such kids and, of course, taking them through these tournaments, and, for example, the initiative you mentioned next year in partnership with the UK.
British table tennis,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. For example, with that, you did mention that you pick kids on a criteria based on the clubs that they represent.
Yeah, the Kenya Table Tennis Association will develop a tool on how the players will be selected, because I think by that time some of them will have elapsed that junior, because you're taking between the age of 9 to 16. Yeah.
Okay. So my question was, it seems like it's more of a club-based system.
No. It's now when you talk about Kenya Table Tennis is the national level. And the juniors are selected not from the only clubs, but even from the schools. See, most of them are from schools. Yeah.
Okay, and among other groups being together, you did mention that different technical coaches and whatnot are also part of the program.
Yes.
Next year's program. Then again, how far have we come when it comes to things such as refereeing? Because honestly, we've had a couple of issues. Everyone always, losers always have issues when it comes to the game, but we've had quite some are legit concerns. Can you say that our referees and coaches are, let's say, up to date, international standards? These coaching seminars that the international body that is responsible for table tennis carries out throughout the world. Can you say we are, let's say, up to date once again? Yeah,
for sure, we're up to date, because like in Kenya Table Tennis, we only conducted courses for match and match officials. These are the people we call umpires, as well as the coaches. And in coaches, there are levels. There's level 1, level 2, level 3, depending on the level that you are. So you'll be accredited depending on your level. So if players are complaining about the officiation, it means that the match officials have not really equipped themselves with the current or updated knowledge on how the rules have been changing of the game. Yeah.
So how often can you say such seminars are, of course, organized? Because as you mentioned, rules keep changing.
Yes.
So how often are these, programs and seminars held to, of course, get them up to date?
Thank you. According to our calendar, it was quarterly. After every 3 months, we conduct match and match officials course, as well as they go concurrently with the coaching. Yeah. And these are all based from the International Table Tennis Federation guidelines. Yes.
Okay, now let's talk about you, example, as a coach. You double up as a player.
Yes.
So maybe how did you get into coaching in the first place?
I think I developed that passion from Mr. Gishuki. He was my very first coach at St. Monica's Girls High School. So I used to go and assist him. When I was done with high school, I used to go and assist him in coaching the girls. And that's when I developed the passion of coaching. And since then, it has been a success. I thank God for that.
So maybe, let's say your biggest accomplishments, which tournaments can you say that at least that highlighted or that showcased my real talent, a performance that you've always wanted to emulate up until today?
As a coach or as a player?
As a player. And then as a coach, of course.
As a player, making it to the national team was a milestone. I think that was a dream come true for me. I always wanted to play for the national team, and last year I managed to make a slot. Currently seed number 3. Another thing is there are so many players in the top 8 in the national team that I've trained, the young boys and the young women. So I feel so in place when I find that these are the players that they can see. This guy was telling us the truth when it comes to advice. You know, there are some coaches who can tell you this, and when it comes to demonstration, they'll actually demonstrate their own things. Yeah. So I think that's a milestone for me. Thank God.
Okay. Now, of course, when the Olympics are meant to be held well this year, but due to the coronavirus, we've had changes to that. Of course, the changes to the schedule, meaning if all goes well, next year we're going to, once again hold the Olympics. That is in Japan, in Tokyo, Japan.
Yes.
But how can you say Kenya fared? Because in the regional qualifiers, we did not do so well.
Yes.
So maybe what were according to you, as you did mention 4 pillars of a player, and with that, that's all they need to succeed.
Yes.
But what can you say, what aspects failed as in the qualification process that we held for the Olympics? As a coach.
As a coach.
Of course, as a coach.
I'll talk about 2 pillars. I think the technical bit and the psychological bit. Because these players that we're competing against them, they all have a psychologist, and they have very good coaches. The highest top coach in Kenya is level 2. And all the coaches that these players have, they're called high performance. They're international classified coaches. So those are the bits that really brought us down, because we have techniques, but we do not have advanced techniques. And you cannot teach your player a new technique during a match. It's only during practice is when you can teach your player a new technique. So adjusting, because these players keep on changing their games depending on how you play. Those are some of the difficulties that we face. But we are going to work on them, because when we came back, we sat down with the players and we had to elaborate the nitty-gritties of what happened. And this is what we're going to work on. Because there's also another qualifier.
Exactly, I was actually coming to that.
Yes, there's also another qualifier for the people who did not manage to qualify in the respective regions that will be held later on in Qatar after the issue of COVID has been resolved or it has come to pass. So these are the things that we'll be working on to ensure that at least you get a slot, whether in singles, men's singles, women's singles, or mixed doubles.
Okay. Now, how can you base the competition, in the country, going by how we performed in the qualifiers, and once again by the preparations, of course, ahead of the other qualifiers you mentioned in Qatar, and also you can give us a number of, the slots that we've been awarded, and if we do not hit certain points, does that mean that the positions will be awarded to another country?
No. If you took part in the original qualification, you still maintain that position. And we only have 2 slots for men singles and 2 slots for women singles. And there's also 1 slot for mixed doubles. So we're competing for 5 slots, and we hope that you're going to, if not get 2, at least 1 in the qualifier. And
hopefully, if we indeed get, all the slots that we are aiming for, does that mean that, as mentioned, we have 2 singles, that is 2 slots for men, 2 slots for women, and another mixed doubles?
Yes.
Does that mean that the players participating in the singles are also eligible to actually form a team in the mixed doubles?
Yes, true. Like for our mixed double is the top female player and the top male player. They're going to team up for the mixed double.
They're going to team up for the mixed double.
Unless some other technicalities rises up is when you're going to change. But apparently that is the team.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, we always say when you are preparing for a certain event, be it qualifiers or main event like the Olympic itself, we have to gauge our performances, and that we can only achieve through, well, holding a couple of tournaments before that.
Yes.
And then again, maybe any events leading up to the Olympic qualifiers, and also how often do we compete or do we hold regional tournaments with countries such as, let's say, Egypt and some of the best in Africa, really. How often do we hold such tournaments? And do you think that contributes to the level of competition that is witnessed here in our league?
True. The more competition you play, the more experience you gain. And this will help you create more confidence in your style of play or during your match. So it depends with the calendar of Africa Table Tennis Federation is when we're going to see if the country or the association is able to send players to these tournaments or not. So for that, I cannot say much. That is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Okay, but okay, now let's look at the countries that are more experienced in playing the game, that is table tennis.
In Africa?
You have, not only in Africa,
in
in the
the world.
world, because I'm trying to look at the top level players.
Yes.
Why is it that Asians, mostly dominate when it comes to this sport? Because anything when you check out any video of let's say table tennis online,
Yes.
all you see is of course once again Asians. Is it that they started the game earlier on? Is it that their understanding of the game is better, their technical ability? What is it that sets them apart from other countries?
Number one, let me give you an example of China. Chinese are the best in the world in table tennis because of one, they are communists.
What does
you work
communism have to
until
do
your
with
master. You work until your master says, "I'm satisfied." So you train until your coach says, "I'm satisfied." Number two, they have that pride that China is not going to be defeated with any other country. And number three, they have good technical support all through. So those are the things that make China one of the best table tennis players, table tennis teams in the world.
In the world.
Yeah.
Okay, and in Africa, which team can you say, as Kenyans, we hope to emulate, their performance? We hope to actually go beyond the levels that they've reached so far.
Egypt is number one team, followed by Nigeria.
Exactly, which brings me back to the question of preparing for tournaments.
Yes.
How do we really plan this friendly tournaments, be it friendly or competitive? Do we really plan against the best of the best, or what we can manage at the moment?
Apparently, it has been what we can manage at the moment, because most tournaments have been played have been regionally, whether East Africa or Eastern Central Africa. But we've not managed to go to the north as well as in the west. Okay. Yeah.
And starting out when it comes to playing table tennis, let's say it's actually not quite easy, even in terms of leave alone the kit. Let's just use the equipment, for example.
Yes.
For the table.
Yes.
For a really good bat.
Yes.
For a really good ball. And what can you tell those that of course always admire the sport, but they can't really manage to play with it? They can't really manage to participate. And do we have centers whereby people can just go rent out equipment, use it, and then using the equipment and then returning it?
Okay, thank you. And I think number one, any table is a table tennis table. So long as the ball can bounce, or any flat surface can be worked as a table tennis table. So long as the ball can bounce. So the main issue is, are you able to control the ball? Are you able to hold the racket in an accurate and correct way? Are you able to coordinate your eye-hand coordination? So these are the things that you need to learn first, so that when you get into good equipments, you'll be a notch higher. So the best thing is, try it from where you are. Any table is a table tennis table. You can play with it. And you can get these cheap bats from supermarkets, so long as you gain control of the ball. That is the plus.
But they just aren't the same as the professional bats.
Yeah, I know.
Like the ones that you use, you forget I've seen you play, so.
Of course, for the rackets, they're very expensive. They're very expensive. Like the ones that Kenya Table Tennis had bought for us when we were going to All Africa Games last year in Rabat. One racket could cost like 36 to 40,000.
And that is the one that's, of course, is up to date too. Is up to par with the international standards of the game.
Yes. So you see, it's very expensive, but you can still use the locally available materials to start the game off.
There have been reports that you can actually make your own racket or
yes,
bat.
as well as a table. Yeah, you can make the table.
So maybe for the bats, for those who don't want to use the basic, like the basic racket, which, well, we both know the basic racket is not as, is not as good, especially, exactly. It's not as good in a competition.
Yes.
But maybe is it a thing? Is it a phenomenon so far that people, instead of actually going for the expensive bats or by bat I mean racket, does it necessarily mean that nowadays people are opting to not go for the expensive rackets and instead are looking for the man-made ones?
Yeah, because man-made, the locally available material, it's cheaper to make a good racket and sell it at a cheaper price.
But it's up to date to the international standards.
But these other ones, they are selling the brand, not even like there's one brand in table tennis called Butterfly. It's very expensive. It's very expensive. So I think you can use what you have at the moment, so long as you are able to control the game. So with that, you when you move to the next level, you'll be able to compete against other people.
Okay.
Yes.
Now to a more general question, why isn't table tennis, among the sports that are considered, household? Why is it that if you ask someone, even here in studio, if you ask someone to name at least suitable, at least the KPL in football, people can mention in volleyball, rugby, the same. Why is it that table tennis is not that popular? And consider this, it's actually a game that's played basically in all schools.
Yes. I think number one is visibility or popularity or publicity. It needs to be publicized every now and then when there are competitions. And something is also for the players themselves. They also need to tell other people that, yes, I do play table tennis and I'm proud that I'm a table tennis player. When some people are being asked, which game do you play? The guy says, I play pool table. Because that's the game that most of the people can associate with. Yes. But you need to be proud of the game that you play and say that I'm a table tennis player and this is where we practice from and you can join us.
Okay, and now let's say when it comes to, it's not like football whereby you have to look for a stadium really.
Yes.
You can do it in any institution somewhere enclosed, let's say, as the cutaways for the viewer, as you can see in the, on the screens there, we have, of course, it's an indoor activity really. But then again, maybe what are the most, for someone starting out, what are the most popular, let's say, institutions where one can actually be accepted to go, be, allowed to actually go and, train as they get familiar with some of the professional, some of the, experienced players?
The players in Nairobi or in the entire country?
Everywhere, really, the major centers. Because as you mentioned, for you were born and you grew up in Kitale. So I'm assuming that's where you learned to play the sport.
True.
Exactly. So some of the prominent ones that someone can actually, let's say something or somewhere to start. Under
Kenya Table Tennis Association, there are 8 regions, namely North Rift, South Rift, Central, Nairobi, Nyanza, Coasts. So these are the branches that do coordinate the games at their respective levels. So if you go to the website at www.kenyatabletennis.org, you'll get the places where people train from. But in Nairobi, there are other places that people train from, like the SBCT Stadium, but still apparently still under renovation. There's Parklands Sports Club, there's Oshol Sports Club, there is Aga Khan Sports Club. There's also a church in Embakasi called Tasia, where the youth play table tennis. So there are so many other places, if you go to the website, that you can be directed to go and play.
Okay.
And there you'll get the contact persons from Kenya Table Tennis Association. They are registered coaches as well as officials who can help you elevate your game. Yes.
Okay, now as we wind up the first segment of today's show, of course, your parting shot, one of the things, well, your parting shot, and as a table tennis coach, where can those aspiring, of course, to play table tennis, how can they, get in contact with you? Where can they come see you play? Where can you train them? Such matters, of course, using this camera, just reach out to them.
I play from Parkland Sports Club, but apparently is closed due to COVID. The parting shot is stay safe, adhere to the government directives, and as soon as this COVID thing is done, we'll be out and about to run the entire calendar of Kenya Table Tennis Association.
And something else I did forget to mention, because someone has actually texted, a colleague has told me to ask you, seeing to it that you're a player and also a coach. For the Olympic qualifiers, what was your role exactly? Were you a player or a coach?
I went as a coach.
You went as a coach?
Yeah. So it's only the top 2 seeds that went as players.
Oh, the top 2 seeds?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And maybe starting off, well, as you said, after COVID and all that, some of these tournaments that you do participate in,
yes.
some of them, even Kekoso.
Yes.
Can you encourage people to actually, use that as a platform? Because for Kekoso, we all know the communications, whatnot. That is how most people in institutions get a chance to mingle with such guys. Kenya 1, Kenya 2, yes. The likes of Mutua and whatnot. Yes. Can you say such tournaments are actually instrumental, and should companies or corporates ride on, that popularity of such tournaments?
Of course. It's only through Kekoso that we have managed to have a compact team at our club. My club is City Table Tennis, where I've told you that we practice at City Stadium. And it was through that Kekoso games that managed us to have a very strong bond in the club, and most of our team members are in the national team.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's it from Kennedy Otieno, also known as Lotto in the table tennis. Since talking about the development of the sport, you've heard it from him. When you want to reach him, he has told you that he is a member of the City table tennis team.